Welcome back to the Teacher's Wake Up Call, and I am your host, Madame la Prof. So, AI. Okay, so I know this is, I don't want to say a controversial topic. It could be. Like, don't come at me and tell me about like the environmental impact and whatnot. Like, I'm aware of it. I'm here to talk about my experience, okay? I'm not promoting it. I'm not encouraging it. I'm just saying this is what it is, okay? This is the reality. This is what's happening. Teaching and AI. How is it as a teacher? Less than a decade away from retirement. How am I dealing with AI? Okay, so I think this is going to be a multi-part thing because I cannot talk for an hour. I mean, I can. Those who know me, I can. But those who also know me know that I don't like hogging the spotlight all the time. And yeah, so I want to first talk about my experience as someone who basically has been teaching before AI came around, and now that AI is here, I'm on the verge of not needing it that much anymore, okay? So first things first, I started my career in, let's be honest, in 1998, okay? And at the time, they were still using those overhead projectors. It's like a box with a light and everything. That was our concept of technology. Email started to be a thing, okay? But still, if you wanted to send a message to a teacher, it wasn't via email. It was either a knock on the door, or a message in their box, their mailbox, their cubby holes. If you wanted to reach out to a parent, it was a phone call or a meeting face to face. We had TVs and VCRs, but like it was still very basic. You had computing classes, you had computing programming classes for students in a very limited capacity. And then I would say that it was only around, I would say maybe 2006, 2007, where you sensed that there was a shift, okay? You sense that there was something brewing, okay? You had social media that started to take up a lot of space socially, collectively. There was a lot of talk about how teachers should not befriend their students online, and there was a lot of controversy around that. I also seem to remember that there was a lot of talk about how the servers housing things like Facebook, Twitter, and all of the platforms at the time, MySpace, anyone, it took up a lot of energy, resources, and it was very, like the carbon footprint of Facebook was horrendous. And I remember those conversations, it might have been like 20 years ago, but I remember those conversations. And like you had more and more, like Photoshop was around. People were modifying images at the time. Like you had tools, maybe not Photoshop itself, but you had tools that allowed us to tweak, modify, adjust, fix certain things. And I remember when we started, I think it must have been around I'm trying to remember the year, but I remember it was before 2010 where we had our first projectors, computer projectors, and that was amazing. I had put all of my lessons online in Google. It wasn't Google Slides, it was PowerPoint. Then I converted to Google Slides. I find Google Slides seemed easier to manipulate, but that's another story. And I felt like my teaching changed when I was able to put the content that I was normally writing on the board online in a format that allowed me to do instant changes, fix them quickly. I felt freed, okay? And I didn't have to, there was a lot less fatigue for me, okay? Because I remember I used to teach ethics and religious culture, and I used to do a lesson on like a crash course overview of the big religions. And I had to write down the notes every single time on the board so students can write them down on their note paper. And I didn't have to do it anymore. So that, for me, it was a game changer. I could embed videos, I could bring to, there was so many things. And even then, my understanding and my use of it was limited. It was very basic when you think of all the different functionalities that existed back in those days. So even though I knew I wasn't using it to its full potential, I was still able to grasp and master certain things. And then around, I think, 2015, 2016, more or less, some of our teachers where I used to teach, where I used to work, Berlin Academy, shout out to the Bobcats, they were Google certified educators. I don't remember the acronym. And they trained us. And then I discovered Google Classroom. That was fun. Google Classroom also changed the game. It allowed me to limit the quantity of paper that I was wasting. Google Suite, I find when I discovered that I could keep a digital version of my documents, I was hoarding a lot less. I was learning to clean up and purge things that I was holding on to for years. Mind you, I still have documents that I haven't gotten rid of because I know I don't have a digital version of it. What probably will happen is that I will scan it, upload it to my drive, and save it that way, and purge even more. I remember leaving Berlin Academy in 2019 and bringing home, I'm not kidding, 10 boxes of stuff. I've now reduced it to, I would say maybe three. And when I mean boxes, I mean those photocopy paper boxes, okay? They're in imperial measurements, 11 by 17, okay? A box about that size, about this deep. And I was able to limit it to 3 boxes now. And I'm not counting all of the physical stuff, like my pencils and my materials. I'm talking about paper stuff. So AI comes along. And for the past 3 months or so, the school board and the school has been focusing on, let's learn how to use it judiciously, intelligently, smartly, all right? And I find I'm experiencing that same discovery. that same moment of how can this help me make sense of my stuff? And there's still so much to learn and so much to understand. And things still don't make perfect sense, but I find that in my experience, this added value of AI, okay, is going to maybe potentially help me make sense of the last 8-9 years of my teaching career. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that artificial intelligence platforms, if used correctly, become an assistant more than something to replace me or teaching, period. But even then, even then, there are tools out there that are very creepy, and you look at it and you listen to it like, this is amazing. Oh my God, this could potentially replace me. But you know deep down inside that AI will not replace a teacher, because you still need that human connection in order to be an effective teacher. If you want teaching and learning to be efficient, to be successful, to be meaningful, there needs to be a human connection, and you cannot get that with AI. You cannot get AI to tell you a dad joke, make it awkward, and students laugh because it was awkward. You won't have those moments. And it's because of those moments that teaching and learning become successful and meaningful and a positive experience. Not because you've used technology to teach math or to teach French or to teach English. No. You made it successful because of that human connection. So I'm not afraid in that respect. I'm not afraid that AI will replace me. But I am feeling the same energy that I had when I experienced those moments. Like, I want to say, like, was it 2008? I'm trying to remember when I had that moment. I'd have to look back at my notes, and trust me, I have a lot of stuff. How old am I? I still have notes, okay, and lesson plans on a CD-ROM. I know. I emptied my computer and I put everything on a CD-ROM. Yes, I'm a dinosaur. But I'm a lovable dinosaur. Have yourselves an awesome day. Part 2 will probably be tomorrow. There might be a part 3. Part 2 will definitely be tomorrow.